Prince Albert II of Monaco, a man often described as both a monarch and a humanitarian, has once again proven that royalty extends far beyond palaces and protocol. With compassion etched into his words, he has turned global attention to a tragedy that has left entire communities shattered. Deadly fires sweeping through Spain and Portugal have claimed lives, destroyed homes, and carved scars not only into the land but also into the hearts of those who watched everything they loved reduced to ash. And in this moment of grief, it was Prince Albert's voice, filled with empathy and solidarity, that resonated far beyond the borders of his tiny principality. This is not just a royal statement, it is a cry for humanity to come together when devastation knows no boundaries. The fires themselves erupted with terrifying speed. Southern Europe, already vulnerable to heatwaves and prolonged droughts, became the unwilling stage of a natural catastrophe that spiraled out of control. In Spain, flames devoured forest after forest, creeping perilously close to villages that stood no chance against walls of fire higher than buildings. Portugal, scarred by past disasters of similar scale, found itself once again trapped in scenes of horror, families fleeing with little more than the clothes on their backs, farmers losing generations of hard work, and heroic firefighters battling against impossible odds. Helicopters dropped water from above, but the flames, fanned by relentless winds, seemed almost invincible. The human toll mounted quickly, and grief spread like smoke across borders. Against this backdrop, Prince Albert stepped forward with words that carried the weight of genuine concern. He did not speak merely as the sovereign of Monaco but as a man who has long advocated for environmental responsibility and humanitarian aid. His message was clear: the people of Spain and Portugal are not alone. In their darkest hour, they have the thoughts, prayers, and solidarity of Monaco, and by extension, of millions worldwide who recognize the magnitude of their suffering. For Albert, this was not simply diplomatic duty, it was deeply personal, for he has spent decades warning the world about climate crises, natural disasters, and the fragile bond between humanity and nature. What makes this gesture particularly moving is the sincerity behind it. Too often, royal statements are dismissed as ceremonial, but those familiar with Prince Albert's life know he is not a monarch who stands idle when disaster strikes. Time and again, he has spoken out on global issues, climate change, environmental degradation, humanitarian tragedies, and matched his words with action. From initiatives to protect the oceans to direct aid for disaster victims, Albert has woven his reign into the very fabric of modern struggles. And now, as the Iberian Peninsula mourns, his voice brings both comfort and a reminder that global unity is not an abstract concept, it is a necessity. The tragedy in Spain and Portugal is not just a story of flames. It is a story of human resilience tested to its limits. Imagine the parents in rural Portugal who ran into fields with their children, trying desperately to escape advancing fire lines. Picture the elderly in small Spanish villages, too weak to flee, relying on neighbors or firefighters to carry them to safety. Think of the countless animals, pets, livestock, wildlife, trapped in an inferno that consumed entire habitats in minutes. The fires destroyed not only property but the delicate ecosystems that sustain livelihoods. Vineyards, olive groves, forests, symbols of Iberian tradition and culture, were reduced to cinders. In every corner of the region, grief mingled with shock, and shock with anger, as communities struggled to process the scope of their loss. Prince Albert's words reminded the world that mourning should not be silent and that solidarity is powerful. His message was a bridge connecting Monaco with Spain and Portugal, nations with which the Principality has long-standing ties. It underscored the truth that in an age of climate extremes, no country is an island, not even one as small and seemingly removed from danger as Monaco. For Albert, climate-related disasters are not distant tragedies, they are part of a global struggle that requires shared responsibility. By standing with Spain and Portugal in their moment of devastation, he was also urging the world to recognize the urgent need for collective solutions. To truly grasp the significance of Albert's message, one must look at the broader history of wildfires in southern Europe. Portugal, in particular, carries painful memories of past infernos. The fire of Pedrógão Grande in 2017 killed more than 60 people, a tragedy etched into the nation's consciousness. Since then, Portugal has invested heavily in prevention, but nature, combined with human error and the intensifying climate crisis, continues to pose deadly threats. Spain too has battled devastating blazes year after year, with regions such as Galicia, Andalusia, and Catalonia often on the front lines. For both nations, these fires are not isolated disasters, they are recurring nightmares that demand both resilience and international solidarity. Prince Albert's voice, then, is not merely symbolic. It is a recognition of this painful cycle and a call for stronger support systems to break it. What makes the royal statement even more poignant is how it contrasts with the silence often seen elsewhere. While political leaders debate policies and assign blame, Albert chose to speak directly to the human dimension of the tragedy. His words acknowledge the pain of families who lost loved ones, the courage of firefighters risking everything, and the enduring spirit of communities determined to rebuild. He offered not a politician's speech but a human embrace, one that told the victims, "You are seen. You are not forgotten." In times of disaster, such gestures carry immense weight. They remind the suffering that they are part of a wider family of nations, united not by borders but by compassion. The fires in Spain and Portugal also reignite an urgent debate about climate change and the future of southern Europe. Scientists have long warned that rising temperatures, prolonged droughts, and erratic weather patterns will increase the frequency and intensity of wildfires. These warnings, once seen as distant predictions, are now lived realities. Each new inferno is not only a local disaster but also a glimpse into a future shaped by inaction. Prince Albert, a leader who has dedicated much of his reign to environmental advocacy, understands this connection better than most. His message of solidarity, therefore, carries a dual meaning: comfort for the present victims and a call to the world to prevent future tragedies. It is a reminder that without urgent global efforts, today's disasters will become tomorrow's norms. But perhaps the most powerful element of this story is the resilience of the people themselves. In the ashes of destruction, Spain and Portugal have shown the world what courage looks like. Communities have rallied together, neighbors have helped neighbors, and volunteers have traveled from across the continent to offer assistance. Firefighters, many of whom worked without rest, became national heroes. Their bravery, captured in images of men and women standing against walls of fire, embodies the strength of humanity in the face of overwhelming odds. Prince Albert's solidarity message amplifies this courage, shining a light on those whose sacrifices often go unnoticed in the chaos of tragedy. As the world watches Spain and Portugal mourn, questions linger about what comes next. Rebuilding will take years, not months. Lives will need healing, landscapes will need restoration, and economies will need recovery. But in this long process, the solidarity expressed by figures like Prince Albert can provide emotional fuel, inspiring both national governments and international communities to step forward with aid, resources, and empathy. It is in these gestures, large and small, that hope begins to grow amid ashes. Prince Albert's intervention will not stop the fires or reverse the devastation, but it may help shift global attention in a way that fuels action. And in a time when so many tragedies compete for headlines, that shift matters. His words remind us that humanity must never allow compassion to be exhausted, no matter how frequent disasters become. His voice echoes the truth that solidarity is not optional, it is essential. And perhaps, just perhaps, his message will inspire leaders across the globe to treat disasters not as distant problems but as shared responsibilities. In moments like this, the difference between silence and empathy can be profound. For Spain and Portugal, Albert's words are more than condolences, they are recognition, dignity, and solidarity from a world stage that too often moves on too quickly. And for the rest of us, his words are a reminder that every tragedy deserves not only aid but also memory. Fires may destroy landscapes, but solidarity rebuilds humanity. As communities in Spain and Portugal gather their strength to rebuild from the ashes, and as the global community reflects on both the tragedy and the royal solidarity it inspired, one pressing thought remains: in a world facing ever-rising threats from climate and catastrophe, will global leaders and ordinary citizens alike rise to the call for unity and compassion before the next disaster strikes?